Hey, welcome. Welcome to another quick-fire episode on Lessons on Learning, which is where we do quite short 10 to 15-minute videos all about how people learn and what we can do as educators to make learning more fun, more effective, a little bit more dynamic. I want you to know that these videos are completely off the cuff and completely unscripted. I don't have auto cues, and other than having a rough idea of what I want to talk about, I don't really have a script planned. I'm just going to riff on a subject that's come to mind. So look, if you've enjoyed the videos, if you've enjoyed the other ones, please make sure that you click the subscribe button. Just drop a comment, let me know that you're watching them, and maybe tell a friend who you think might benefit from these as well. So in this video, I want to talk to you about feedback and how feedback can be sometimes overrated and sometimes spurious and ineffective as well. And I think as a teacher, it's really difficult to get feedback. So for instance, if you're doing a particular task or a skill, a motor skill, let's imagine that, I don't know, you're baking a cake or painting a wall, or in our case, doing something to do with hair or beauty or some holistic therapy. There's an end product at the end and you can see how it looks. So if you're painting nails, you can see how the painting looks. If you're cutting someone's hair, you can see how the haircut looks, and vice versa. And that gives you pretty immediate feedback. But as a teacher, it's difficult to get that feedback. So how do you know that your teaching has gone over well? How do you know that it's been effective? Well, there are some evaluation models that we can look at. If you're interested in looking at one particular evaluation model that I think is quite good, just drop the word evaluation into the comment box or send me a message about the evaluation video and I'll do that. But rather than evaluation as such, how can we get the kind of feedback from our learners that tells us that our teaching was effective? Well, you can hand out questionnaires and you can hand out survey forms and you can get marked out of 10, or you can get a smiley face, or you can say, was it good, very good, average, that kind of thing. Or you can even ask the learner direct, how's that for you? How's the class? And you will get some kind of response, but I don't want you to think that that's particularly effective feedback. You see, sometimes what happens is, as educators, we mix up feedback for a review on our performance. And that can be something that sounds a little bit like, oh, that was fantastic. Oh, I love the day. I loved every minute of it. That was amazing. Oh, it's great. You were fantastic. It was fantastic. It's just really a review by the learner on how they feel right there and then in the moment. And sometimes the learner can say, wow, yeah, it's great. I learned so much. Did you? How do you know you learned it? Because here's the thing, look, at the end of a skills-based class that you have taught, your learners undoubtedly will be able to replicate the skill that you taught them. If you're teaching them to paint nails, to ice a cake, to do a haircut, to put a colour on, it's highly likely that at the end of the class, the learners will be able to replicate what it is that you showed them. But really, that's what they're doing. They're replicating. So the question is did they really learn it, or are they just simply memorizing it? Because if you're asking them to do a task immediately, right there and then, if you're showing them a task step by step and asking them to show it back to you, if you're asking them questions and looking for responses right there and then the feedback that you're going to get, although it's immediate and it's accurate in that moment, that feedback is based entirely on short-term memory, short-term recollection, and kind of almost like muscle memory. Think of it this way, look. You could come to me to learn how to play the guitar, and I could show you 3 chord structures in that guitar. 1, 2, 3, jing, 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 that kind of thing. And we could get you to play those chord structures over and over and over again. And we could build them up. Here's step 1 of chord 1. Here's step 2 of chord 1. Here's step 1 of chord 2. Here's step 2 of chord 2. Here's how you transition from step 2 of chord 1 into step 1 of chord 2. This is how you and we could get you to practice all of those steps, and you could practice them over and over again. And I promise you, at the end of that session, whether it's an hour or a day, you'll be able to progress through those 3 chords. But what you're really relying on is muscle memory, because you've practiced this movement so many times that it's become automated. So really you're saying, oh, I really learned that. That was really effective. But what it was is you've simply programmed a set of movements, and that set of movements right now is living in your short-term memory. So that means, providing I ask you to recall and re-demonstrate and show those movements, those steps, as long as I do it quickly, still be in your short-term memory, you'll be able to access it really quickly and you'll be able to do it. So for the next hour or so, you'll probably be able to master that chord movement. But the next morning, tomorrow morning, might not be quite so easy. The following week might be quite difficult. The following month, probably be impossible. Because unless it goes into your long-term memory, it will go out of your short-term memory almost as quicker in fact than it went in. So if you're asking for feedback at the end of the class and people are saying, oh, I can do this, I learned this, it might not be that accurate. The real question is this. The real question is not, can they replicate the work at the end of the class? The real feedback that you're looking for as a teacher is, can they replicate and recreate the work 6 weeks later when you're no longer there? Furthermore, can they adapt that work to solve complex problems that didn't arise during the training session? That makes sense. So can I take the information that you gave me and not only replicate it in 6 weeks' time and recreate the same thing, but can I also adapt it and change it to solve a slightly different problem? That's the real test of our feedback. And as a teacher, it's really hard to get that feedback, because at the end of the class, people say, that was great, that was fantastic, had so much fun, it was so inspiring, I learned so much. But what they're telling us is what they remember right now and what their muscle memory allows them to do. So we can take that. It's definitely a win. It's still a victory, but it doesn't really measure how effective our teaching was. So have a look at this, because this is roughly how it's going to work. So the path that they're going to go on, first of all, is they're going to look at the information that we shared with them, whether it's just one step or whether it's an entire task. And then we're going to ask them to take that skill and to do it themselves. So take these steps and to do it themselves. So the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to take that information that we gave them, those steps, and they're going to apply that information. Real learning comes from then having the opportunity to then adopt that information. And that means to reapply it again and again and again, almost like repeating it over and over again. But this time changing the situation and the circumstances in which they apply it. So instead of the classroom on a model or a mannequin or a mock-up, they do it in the workplace, in a real life situation, on a real person or a real piece of equipment or something like that. So they adopt it. Once they adopt, then they need to keep adopting and spot any flaws or to spot any nuances where they might need to change in order to overcome slightly different problems. In other words, now they need to adapt. So they apply it, then they adopt it, then they start to adapt it. So when I do that, that happens. But if I tweak it a little bit, I can get this instead. So I need to do this when I've got that in front of me. But if that changes into something else, then I need to just adapt it and do this instead. So now we're at apply, adopt, and adapt. Before eventually what will happen is they will integrate. And integrate means it becomes part of their regular workflow, part of what they do. So it's beyond muscle memory. It just becomes part of what they do. And it's this area here where we can look for real impactful feedback in the integration area. Is this making sense? So we can really have a look at where the real feedback is. So what you can do as a teacher, as an educator, in order to get good feedback is, rather than just watching them apply it here and just say, oh yeah, they've applied it, yeah, they know how to do it, instead of just watching them apply it here, in fact, you know what, I'm going to just change the color of that so that instead of just watching them apply it, what we might want to do then is, if we have time in the class, is get them to apply it more than once. get them to apply it several times so that they can start to really adopt it, and repetition is the first step towards, really learning and mastering something as well. Again, if we have time, is there any way we can change what they're doing so that it can be ever so slightly adapted? If we have time, can we say, oh, can you do it this way? Can you do it that way? What would happen if? And if we don't have time, perhaps we could set them some scenarios. So, okay, you've learned how to do it in this situation. How would you change it if the situation was like that instead? So how would you adapt this if this happened or that happened? So how would you change it up? So, okay, you've managed to do this now on hair that's very thick and down to the chin. How would you change that if the hair was very long and down to the shoulder? Okay, so you've managed to do that on a fingernail that's this long and in really good condition. How would you change that if the fingernail was badly bitten or slightly distorted or damaged or something like that? So do you understand? So you would maybe verbally ask them on how they could adapt it if you had time. The last little bit here, of course, which is kind of this integration thing here, is a little bit more difficult, because really they have to have the opportunity to integrate it. So one of the things that you could do, again, if you have time and the opportunity, is maybe reach out to them later and to just say, how's it going now that you're back in the workplace? How, what results are you getting? What challenges are you getting? What things have you been able to overcome? What problems have you solved now that you're back in the workplace? And if you don't have time to contact them, and that's okay, you don't have to do that, but perhaps what you could do is put the responsibility onto the learner and say, look, I would love to hear from you in a month's time or 2 months' time. Please put a date in your calendar right now. Here's my email address or my social media handle. And 2 months from now, when that pops up on your calendar or as a reminder, a notification, just send me a message. Just say, tell me how's it going, how's it working out. Just let me know and stay in touch that way. And you can get feedback that way. Not everybody will, but some people will. And those that do, they're the ones that are giving you the real feedback, And it's okay if they turn around and say, well, I could do this, but I couldn't make that work. Or, well, this kind of worked, but that didn't work quite so well. Or maybe, maybe I haven't adopted it very well and it's not been working out for me. Either way, it's really great. If whatever you're getting is good feedback, go back to your teaching notes, your training notes, make a note of what's worked and what hasn't worked. And that's how you can that's how then in actual fact, you can adopt and adapt what you do and integrate something different or something new, some adaptation into your training as well. Look, I hope that helps. So let's just summarize. Remember, feedback isn't always what it's cracked up to be. We have to be careful to separate feedback from just simply a review on our performance. It's great that they had a nice time. It's great that they had the best day ever. But, what did you learn? And it's really difficult to figure out what they learned, because they have to be able to separate what is part of muscle memory, that they can do right now, right in the moment, and what is becoming part of their everyday life and in actual fact part of their new work practices. And the only way you can do that is to get in touch with them afterwards. So look, I hope that's been helpful. If it has, drop me a comment. Let me know it's been helpful. Remember, again, hit the like and subscribe button and follow for more videos as well. And again, if you want that video on the evaluation model, let me know about that and I'll do a video on that. I hope that's been useful. I hope you've enjoyed it. And again, thank you so much for watching. I really value it. Just a quick one as well. When it comes to feedback, if you want to get better feedback, or you want to ensure that your feedback is the best it can be, then you really need to take training in how to teach. I say this all the time. So many of us, we take so much training and education in the tasks that we teach, but what we don't do is we don't necessarily get the same amount of training in the art technique of teaching itself. So if you want to know more about that, how you can up your teaching skills in the same way that you leveled up all your other skills, again, send me a message, drop a comment on here, get in touch with me on social media, and let's see how we can work together to make you an amazing educator. All right. Thanks a lot, my friends. Take care. I'll see you again soon.